Weather on News Radio KMAN is brought to you by Sunset Zoo. Join the Sunset Zoo April 19th to celebrate Earth Day featuring animal enrichment, community booths, scavenger hunts, and more.
Your News Radio KMAN Manhattan area weather forecast. Right now, 63 degrees, overcast and breezy. The high for the winds this afternoon, getting as high as 30, those gusts out of the south. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms likely before 1 a.m., then a continued chance between 1 and 7 a.m. That chance of precipitation overnight, 70%. Tomorrow, a 10% chance of showers and thunderstorms before 7. After that, mostly sunny and a high near 67. We're getting set for the game here on News Radio KMAN.
The following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. It's game time. This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
So the good news is that we know that Mitch Fortner will be back in this seat tomorrow. The also good news is that we know that he did not stay at the Spokane Murder Hotel. I have alluded to this a couple times in the mornings, and I'll dig in a little bit here in a little this afternoon. The bad news is I've got a feeling that he lost money at the casino.
That's what I got yesterday from his remark on air.
They actually put the media hotel as the casino, and he did not stay there.
They're smart doing that. They're trying to get some money.
They're very smart doing that.
Trying to stimulate the Spokane economy.
They know us
one way or another.
They know us ink-stained wretches of the media, don't they? Hi, folks. Troy Coverdale sitting in for one Mitchell Fortner this afternoon. Cole Dutchendorf is alongside as we take you through. He's the guy that's not on camera. I'm the guy on camera with the trash panda who is in the police lineup.
I like it.
Thank you.
It brings a good vibe to today's show. That's the vibe we needed.
I figured that was better off than wearing the hang in there, it's going to get worse shirt. I'll hold off on that one for a while.
Yeah, we'll keep the vibes higher.
Yeah, there you go. The Spokane Murder Hotel. Yeah, that's an experience I never want to relive.
That's like a real place?
It was the Spokane Airport Inn. I don't believe it exists anymore. 2016, the then Colorado Ice indoor football franchise, coached by Haran O'Neal, who's the head coach over at Salina for AF1, the Liberty, who played in that championship game last year. He was head coach of the Colorado team. We had a game in Tri-Cities, but because of dealing with flights, specifically, how do you get to Tri-Cities, Kennewick area, and you're trying to do it cheap with, roughly 35 people. The challenge being cheap. Southwest it is. Closest spot, Spokane. It wound up being a little longer trip than normal, one of those situations. And so, because we were flying Spokane, we got the cheapest hotel that was possible. The Spokane Murder Hotel story thus began from there.
So not the most kosher hotel in the world?
No. Let's just say you did not want to take a black light anywhere or a UV light anywhere in that building.
I see.
Mm-hmm. It was so uncomfortable to be around that we basically, would cram as many as we could into the rental vehicles and go out to the casino and just hang. Because it was ugly. It's like, okay, it's a place to stay. That's about all it is. It's a place for us to...
There's some beds?
Yeah, there's beds. We're okay there. Oh, God, that was an experience. Absolute experience. All right, anyway. No, I'm not going to go on about the Spokane Murder Hotel all that much longer. No, there are actual topics to get to today, including torpedo bats, the NFL, and the tush push. Some bad April Fool's jokes that are out there. Apparently, John Wick 5 is coming.
And you weren't just yanking my chain earlier?
I was not yanking your chain earlier. The Verge is reporting it. I've got the materials. Oh, and what do you think about Texas A&M basketball having an opening and a coach in the SEC already being mentioned for it? A guy with ties to 2 Texas schools already behind him. He's alienated one fan base. He was fired from the other place. Chris Beard to A&M.
Huh.
We'll talk about that a bit. The SEC share numbers for the tournament are ungodly.
I can imagine.
That's what happens when you get 14 teams in the tournament.
Right. And a couple with some deep runs.
Exactly. Yeah, the rich get richer. And as we go today, we start things off by talking K-State basketball. The women, having had their season ended on Saturday night in what was a disappointing outcome, one of those games in which you just felt that the team did not have the juice to get over that one last bump. Some of the things that I felt have been a problem at times for this team raised their heads during the course of the ball game. I felt at points that the offense was stagnant. It happens, especially when you get intense in a moment and you're pushing and you're looking for what is your bread and butter at that point. I felt at times that there was too much of an attempt to try to get the ball into Yoki Lee without a lot of looking for their own shots in some cases. That's me just watching it as a fan sitting at home with it on TV. That said, an amazing run. Great to see it go as long as it did. Would have loved to have seen it go further, but then you turn around and you see Paige Beckers go off again last night. No matter how the outcome would have been Saturday, the challenge last night would have been just as big, if not bigger, to get to the Final Four.
I had so many mixed feelings watching the game on Saturday because, like you mentioned at the tail end of it, this is the best run since I've been alive for K-State women's basketball. And while the game itself was disappointing, I think it's important to remind myself that this is it's a program that's on the upward trajectory, and it's a program that had its best season in a very long time. And it's a special group, a special coach, a special season. And even though it didn't end the way that it maybe could have, which maybe, who knows, maybe their ceiling was against UConn last night. Maybe that's where it would have ended anyways. But you still have to tip your cap to everyone, especially the seniors on this roster that made this season and the last couple of seasons everything that they have been, because that's memories that will last forever within the K-State family.
I remember the start of the 21 campaign, and Jeff Mittie out and out said it right up front that his starting guard was going to be Serena Sundell. And I know that caught people off guard. And I went, wow, that's putting a lot of confidence in a true freshman, which is exactly what he did. And the fact that in her own mind, now the story comes out about not being fully convinced that she was ready for this level before she even came to K-State, speaks volumes about how her game developed. And now here we are talking about someone whose jersey could be in the rafters in the future, but also someone who played herself into, I really think this season, played herself into a higher level mark for the WNBA. I think that there is going to be a lot of interest in her for the WNBA next season because of the fact that she showed such versatility during the course of this season. The ability to move away from being point guard at times and actually have the offense running through her as the two guard versus it being setting up top and then her looking for everybody else.
Well, the void she filled when Aoka went down again was just tremendous. And for her to be able to step up the way that they did, there were still a couple of big wins that K-State had in that stretch. TCU obviously comes to mind in the forefront. I don't know how much I'll be upfront. I don't know. I'm not too plugged into the WNBA mock draft community too much, but I have seen a couple where it's been Serena in that late of the first round. I believe there's 12 picks in each round.
There is.
So in that 11-12 spot, and and Mitch talked about it yesterday, but she played a heck of a tournament. Because not only did she shoot the ball well, not only did she obviously pass the ball extremely well and rebound, she also did some of the things that she maybe struggled with time to time, like turnovers were something that they could stack up at points for her during the season. There was a couple games where she would have 5 or 6 turnovers. She had 0 turnovers against one of the best defensive teams in the country against USC, and in a game where K-State had 16 of them as a team. She had none. She had 6 assists, no turnovers. I think as you said, the development that she showed over the last couple of years, and even within this season, you look at last season just to this season, the role that she took as a leader on the court, just commanding every single possession. That's not easy to do, and she did it with confidence, which is, again, another area of growth that she had within herself. She's talked about how she didn't maybe have a ton in the beginning of her career or even before her career started. To see how that's blossomed, to see how she's blossomed as a leader on and off the court, it's been a pleasure to watch her continue to grow over the last couple of seasons.
One of the things that I am a fan of and will always be a fan of with college basketball especially is the ability to develop. And I know that we are losing some of that by the way that the transfer portal plays out. The opportunity to have players that stick in a system for 4 or 5 years and you work with them and you continue to build with them and you continue to improve with them. Dalton Connect is a tremendous example of this because you're talking about a kid who had no D1 offers, played out at Northeastern JUCO in Colorado, which is Sterling, Colorado. Played hometown, basically. Played 2 seasons there, went to Northern Colorado, got 2 seasons there, plus he had a COVID year. Well, that COVID year is what turned into the Tennessee year.
And now he's
a
an
NBA
player in the NBA.
Exactly.
Not just to fill on a bench spot, but legitimate minutes play for the Lakers.
Exactly. But what's that tell you about development? You get a guy in a system, work him to where he develops to a point where, a Division I school had interest in him. And it developed from there.
We talk about a Colorado product, Derek White, a couple of years back.
Another great example, tremendous example. Colorado Springs, UCCS, not even CU until last year.
And now Olympic champion.
And an Olympic champion and NBA champion.
Correct.
That's one of the things I think that we are going to continue to see lost to the game is that development. What we saw with this unit at K-State on the women's side, that was about the development because you had Serena, Jalen, Briley, who took this year off from game action, but still going to be part of the picture next year. You know, when you start factoring all of those seniors together, add in Tamira, that's a group, at least through 4 of them.
Add in a Kendall Taylor, Kendall Taylor.
Kennedy Taylor.
Kennedy Taylor.
But the experience and the fact that specifically you had Serena, Jalen, Briley, and Yoki.
Within the system,
the entirety of their careers. That's huge. Mm-hmm. That is huge, and it gets you to a point like that. Now, we're also seeing that some in the men's tournament develop. It's how Michigan State went as far as they did. It's funny. Someone did a graphic of the 16 teams, and all it was their starting fives and the school with which they started. I don't know if you saw that.
We did a game on air where I listed some of the starters and had Mitch try to guess them.
That was perfect.
Very difficult.
But it also told you which ones are programs that have developed their players. Mm-hmm. Auburn was right there with Michigan State and Purdue in terms of developing their own players. As many as, as much as you want to look at it and say, okay, there's 3 starters, 4 starters. as opposed to one or two starters who started at that school.
Right.
Big difference. You see how the veteran presence plays a role. That's a big part for UConn last night as well. I know Paige Beckers talked about how young the team is as a whole, but you have Paige Beckers, who's been around that program as long as she has. And, and that's just a matter right there of then beginning to play on the history of UConn a bit. And you've got a common thread that is now running to their youngsters. In K-State's case, you've got a common thread now that's going to carry over to another group of youngsters, one of which will be in action, by the way, at 5:30 tonight on ESPN2. Jordan Spicer participating in the McDonald's All-American game.
Won the knockout challenge I saw.
Oh, really?
Yes. They did like a 3-point knockout, and she got it done. She beat, I think it was like 8 other players that were in her. Maybe it was 10.
Speaking of 3-point challenge, Poindexter is headed to the women's 3-point championship as part of the activities this weekend, tied to the Final Four. David Gasson is headed for the Reese's College All-Star game, by the way. That announced this afternoon as well. So you've got those activities coming up. The one thing that has not been brought up other than in one side item thus far, you're not hearing talk about the transfer portal all that much other than, we had a recruit in yesterday on the men's side, and Eliza Maupin elects to go into the transfer portal on the women's side. I won't say that I was surprised by it whatsoever. I understand where that decision comes from. I was really actually surprised that we didn't see more from her during the course of this season. How much of that, though, was also because Kennedy Taylor took over some of those minutes. I think that played a big part in it. And that's not a knock on Eliza, and that's not a knock on anybody involved in the program. That's just one of those situations where coach is playing with the best mix that he thinks he's got on the floor at a given time.
And also the emergence of Imani Lester to a point as well.
Also true. The interesting part of that is going to be going on next year. How does this team look on the interior? A team that has been so heavily focused on Ayoka Lee now has an interesting changeover in front of it. How does this change the offense? How does this change how they approach games?
They could use that waiver on Miss Taylor. They could use that.
True. Absolutely true. But if they don't get that waiver,
it'll be a completely different team. I mean, it'll be crazy to see, which obviously there's still, Zai and Taryn will be some of the building blocks moving forward, but outside of those two, it's going to be drastically different.
We saw some of that at times this year. Even with the seniors that were involved, we saw that sometimes when Lee was down with her injury. The tempo changed, and they did play small at times. Does this team play small, or just who does Jeff Mittie have his eyeball on in the transfer portal? That's going to be an interesting watch, I think.
Well, especially with, again, the trajectory of the program as a whole. Mm-hmm. You look at the seniors from that are just now graduating. When they were recruited, they were not the highly touted, which that doesn't say anything about them because obviously look at what they did.
Right.
But they weren't those high prospects, those top 100 ESPNW prospects. And now you start to have some of those roll in. You have a Jordan Spicer. You have a Flip, a 4-star from Auburn where, you're starting to build a true program. This instead of maybe a team or a class, you have a program. And I think that resonates with, we saw last year, Tamira and Kennedy coming over in the transfer portal. You start to attract some eyeballs, and people, they're seeing what you're doing. And so it'll be interesting to see how the women's team and how Coach Mittie and how his staff attacks the portal, because it's a pretty defining year for them in the transition year, really, between this graduating senior class and then the upcoming freshman class.
One thing to remember, and I learned this a long time ago from a coach, and it still rings true so very much, even with the side tournaments that are going on. Fact of the matter remains is that there are so few teams that get to end their season on a win. You recognize that when you get to this point of the year. And unfortunately for K-State, yes, it didn't end with that W. It ended with a beautiful run. It ended with, taking us to a place that this program hadn't been in 23 years. And yes, it ended with an L. But you have to understand, those who get the W at the end of the season are few and far between. And at that, you just kind of tip your cap and go, that's the name of the game, and we move on. So again, look for Tamira Poindexter in the women's three-point championship this weekend. Also, David Gasson on the men's side playing in the Reese's College All-Star game on Friday. Some of the lead up into Saturday and Monday national championship weekend in San Antonio on the men's side for the Final Four. It's Tampa. All of those trips down to Tampa, and I don't have tickets to see the women's Final Four. What the heck am I thinking?
You missed your window.
Well, listen, I just did taxes over the weekend. I don't even want to get into how much money we've spent in Tampa over the past year. Coming back, we'll get into a little bit of a way too early reaction about the Royals. Yeah, we've got Royals baseball coming up for you tonight, by the way. At 6 begins the coverage, 6:40 as they try to hammer the Brewers again tonight. But we continue on the game in a moment.
You're in the game on News Radio KMAN.
Blueville Nursery's Horticulture Hints radio show comes to your radio every Friday morning at 10 a.m. We will discuss timely gardening and landscape topics to help you keep your lawn and garden in tip-top shape. Blueville Nursery has been your local landscape service and garden store for over 50 years, and we want to share our time-tested techniques with you. From vegetable gardening, spring and summer annuals, to shade trees and lawn care, we'll cover it all. You're welcome to call into the show to ask questions that apply to your own landscape or garden. Stay tuned to Blueville Nursery's Horticulture Hints radio show every Friday at 10 a.m. right here on News Radio KMAN.
Meadowlark Parkinson's program invites you to the 15th annual Pig Out for Parkinson's Thursday, April 24th in honor of World Parkinson's Awareness Month. Come learn about Parkinson's disease, free local support, and eat great food between 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. at Rockin' K's on Kimball Avenue. Enjoy pork and chicken sliders at lunch, a barbecue buffet for dinner, and an appearance by Coach Kleiman. 10% of the proceeds will benefit Meadowlark Parkinson's program. See you at Rockin' K's for Pig Out for Parkinson's.
Check out Vista Drive-In's specials for Lent this year. The butterfly shrimp combo is only $9 and the fish sandwich is only $8. Each combo includes fries and a drink. Back by demand is our grilled shrimp po' boy. Grilled shrimp on a hoagie roll with lettuce, tomato, and a spicy garlic sauce. Fish and shrimp at Vista this Lent season. We also have mozzarella sticks and a vegetarian salad as other non-meat options, or just have a shake or a cyclone. They make a great meal by themselves. Vista Drive-In on Tuttle Creek Boulevard. Serving up Manhattan's favorite since 1964. Open at 7 a.m. daily.
The Native community is big for me. Makes me feel good to pass on our Rapo traditions. My kids love going up to the Sundance. I like to tell people the Sundance is about family. It's about the tribe. It's not just about the dancer. It's kind of like life. As a Sundancer, I'm just one spoke in the wheel. I need my family there. I need my role models. I need my people there, especially my children. Coming in that door, my family is ready to see me and they believe in me. Before, I'd never seen that from my people. But now when I walk in that door and I see those smiling faces and they're happy to see me, that's special. With my 4 kids, all I ask for them in Arapaho ways is health and happiness. Nothing more, nothing less.
Never stop being a dad. That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Psst, Steven.
Who said that?
I'm Cole Betchendorf with the Game Sports Update. Just a couple of days after K-State's loss to number 1 seed USC in the Sweet 16, the Wildcat women had their first portal defection of the offseason. According to a report from On3, junior forward Eliza Maupin is headed to the transfer portal after 3 seasons in Manhattan. Maupin averaged 3.9 points per game this past season and 4 per game and 12 minutes per game over her career. She also averaged 2.7 rebounds a game last season, recording a career-high 17 blocks and 29 assists on the season. The Webster Groves, Missouri native, a St. Louis suburb, helped the Wildcats to back-to-back trips to the NCAA tournament. She had a career-high 18 points on 7 of 7 shooting versus Texas as a sophomore and had a season-high 15 points versus USC Upstate this past season. Maupin is the first K-State player from either women's or men's team to enter the portal this offseason. The Royals seek to move over 500 for the first time in the young season as they meet the winless Milwaukee Brewers tonight with the first pitch at 6:40. Kansas City spoiled Milwaukee's home opener yesterday with an 11-1 thrashing. All 9 hitters in the Royals starting lineup recorded either an RBI or a run scored, and Chris Bubich put together a quality start in his first time starting a game since April of 2023. Game 2 of the 3-game series starts immediately following the game with pregame at 6 on News Radio KMAN.
Helps if I turn on the microphone. You didn't see that.
I didn't have the camera on, so you would have been good. All you had to do was play it off, and you would have been perfect. Now the whole world knows.
Listen, I'll admit to when I make a mistake. Got to at times. So, yeah, I don't know why I'm sitting here and I think that I don't have to push the button. Come on, man. I've been in this business 30-plus years.
Been around
I
the
was
block
going to say, I better have a knowledge here. Come on. We continue on the game. Hi, folks. Troy Coverdale in for Mitch Fortner this afternoon. The way too early on the Royals. 2-2 after getting a win yesterday. And I think what we're learning, not about the Royals right away, is that the Milwaukee pitching staff is just garbage.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Maybe the torpedo bats weren't as much of an impact in that Yankee series as maybe the MLB media world has made it seem.
We are going to get into torpedo bats, by the way. Good grief, what that's a heck of a topic, just right out of the box, because it's just, where did this idea come from? And how did this slip beneath Major League Baseball's eyes? We'll dig into that. Runs against for Milwaukee, just a note, in 4 games, 47.
That's really rough.
I mean, I joke about Yankee Stadium being a softball stadium, and it showed this past weekend with 20-4, or 20-9, 12-3. But then Milwaukee gives up an 11-1 yesterday to the Royals.
Against a team that at least we didn't think was going to have a ton of offensive firepower.
Right? About the only thing for Kansas City that didn't click yesterday, Vinny didn't get going. He's still trying to get back into the real swing of things after his injury and dealing with that hamstring right now. MJ Melendez still looks like MJ Melendez.
Yep.
Swing change hasn't helped all that much. But beyond that, my concern is with the starting pitching. And again, I qualify this as way too early. We're only 4 games into the season. And we don't have a flip yet on the starting staff. That will start tomorrow. Tonight, Michael Lorenzen goes to the mound, the last of the 5 that are in the rotation. Chris Bubich was brilliant yesterday.
He pitched a heck of a game.
Was tremendous yesterday. But up until that point, the first 3 games of the year, the Royals had not gotten a quality start. Remember that this was the key stat for them last year, was that their starters had quality start after quality start after quality start. They just stacked them up all year. None of them got out of the 5th inning through the first 3 games. Reagans, Waka, and Lugo. None of them got out of the 5th inning. And so that's where my concern comes in, right out of the box. is that the guys that you're counting on in that rotation, they ate up a lot of innings last year. The fact that they get off to a little bit of a laid-back start, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that's not an indicator, but just a base level. And that's why I say this second time through the rotation, I think, is going to be interesting to watch and see what changes, what becomes different, if they start to get up to speed, if you will.
Yeah, especially as that sample size continues to grow, we'll see kind of a little bit more of what we can expect out of the starting five rotation throughout the season. I'm sure this was on your list of things to mention. Jonathan India has been everything that the Royals could have asked and dreamed for so far in the season.
Even getting belted in the face. Came back yesterday after getting plunked.
He made some fans pretty quickly in Kansas City.
Yes, he did. It's the long hair as he's running, isn't it?
It's elegant. It's like a lion on the prowl.
Boy, he and Bobby Witt Jr. are going to be comparing hairstyles, I think, for the course of the year.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Salvador just polishes.
Yes.
Like the best of us. Mm-hmm. Jonathan India, opening day did not accomplish much. But since that point, he has been on fire. And the fact that last year you are talking about a team that struggled to find a leadoff hitter to the point of putting MJ Melendez into that spot at times. And it never really panned out. The idea being you've got to have someone there to hit in front of Bobby Witt Jr. They were talking yesterday on the broadcast about the fact that in the National League, before the DH became universal, you would likely see the leadoff hitter be a leadoff of an inning multiple times in a game because the pitcher was the last out of an inning. That doesn't hold up so much when you've got a designated hitter in the lineup. You're not going to see your number 9 always being out or almost always being out, depending on who it is. That said, you still want a guy in front of Bobby Witt Jr. who's going to get on base. And it doesn't matter what point of the lineup it is. With what Witt is able to accomplish, you've got to have someone in that spot in front of him who gets on in front of him.
And that was one thing that they lacked so desperately last year. I saw a stat on the broadcast where they had last year the Royals in every single game of the season, they had the leadoff hitter reached base 3 or more times in the game 14 times in the season, and now India's done it in 3 straight games in the first 4 of the season. That's a positive stat.
I'm great with giving up Brady Singer for that.
You'll take that. You'll take that. Although he had a good. I saw he got a pretty good start with the Reds.
That's harsh of me to say, but the inconsistency of Brady Singer over the course of his time in Kansas City, coupled with getting someone in the lineup who might be able to keep that line moving in front of a guy who, by the way, in some people's telling, may actually be the number 1 player in baseball.
Has a legitimate argument for that.
How nuts is that when you realize who Shohei Ohtani is?
Mm-hmm. Or obviously an Aaron Judge, as we saw last year.
Well, yeah. I hesitate. I mean, only because, A, I hate the Yankees, and B, they play in the bandbox.
It's fair.
Okay? Those are my knocks on Aaron Judge. And that comes from also being a Rockies fan. And the fact that everybody wants to criticize what the ball does at Coors Field, but they never criticize Yankee Stadium. You notice how that works?
It has become a topic of conversation in the last couple of years. Anytime any Yankee hits a home run, and they have like some thing you can plug in how many ballparks it would have been a home run,
right?
And it's one, and it's Yankee Stadium.
Right, exactly. I mean, we feel like Fenway's a small stadium down the lines, and the pesky pole is the example of that. No, Yankee Stadium right field is just, for crying out loud, there is no excuse why that is so short. of a porch. There is no excuse for that. Now, those of us of a certain vintage that remembers the old Yankee Stadium, and if you know your baseball history, you'll know that at one point, center field at the old Yankee Stadium was 420.
That's hitting it quite a ways to just exit the park.
And then they brought the fences in because they didn't have football teams playing there anymore, and they built Monument Park. And it became a much shorter center field. But right field was never as short as what it feels like. It just, for whatever reason, when they redid the stadium, when they built this new one, right field has just turned into something completely different than what Yankee Stadium was.
There was even one call. Joe Buck made his return to the baseball broadcast booth
on opening day,
and I don't know which Yankee it was, but he off the bat he said it's a fly ball or like a pop fly into right, and it left the stadium.
Yeah. Oh, that's just his John Sterling impression.
Potentially. Maybe we can give him some more credit than maybe he deserves on that one.
Oh, that's harsh. That's harsh. You can tell that anything Yankees related, I'm not a fan of. I'm just going to point that out, which sucks because Dave Sims is actually a very good announcer and he's taken over the radio broadcast this year. That actually making them listenable instead of John Sterling being on those. Oh boy, John Sterling. Anyway, all right. On that note, Royals are coming up this evening for you here on K-Man. Tomorrow, by the way, we've got a double dip for you. Royals are an early start. They're at 12:10. First pitch, 11:30 coverage tomorrow. K-State baseball tomorrow night as the Cats are at Wichita State looking to build on that number 22 ranking as they match up with the Shockers tomorrow evening. A shortened show for the vacationing Mitch Fortner coming back. We continue on the game in a moment.
Your home for K-State sports.
Walker's going to run to the bucket, lay it in, and the Cats will win it by 7. K-State comes to Iowa City and stuns number 2 Iowa.
This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Center offers innovative, cutting-edge physical therapy from blood flow restriction rehabilitation, dry needling, DARI-A biochemical movement analysis, fall prevention, and return to sport. OSMC Physical Therapy has over 75 years of combined treatment experience and deliver a successful and positive outcome while making the rehabilitation process pleasant and enjoyable. At Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Physical Therapy, no referrals are needed to schedule your therapy appointment. For more information, visit us at kansasortho.com.
Few people choose to go into a nursing home. However, many people feel more independent when they no longer have to rely on family and friends to take care of them. When that time comes, consider visiting the Leonardville Nursing Home. Their dedicated staff will provide your loved one with the dignity and respect they deserve, offering interesting activities and a home-like environment with private rooms available. Call them today at 293-5244. Leonardville Nursing Home. They care.
You Stop Phillips 66, the Friendship House, and News Radio KMAN is giving away an all-expense-paid trip to Cabo San Lucas. Imagine spending a full week in luxury at the Villa Valencia Resort in Cabo for free. To become a finalist, go to our weekly sponsor locations and sign up. While you're there, photobomb our Cabo selfie sign, tag us on Facebook for another chance to be a finalist. Or you can listen to News Radio KMAN for exclusive on-air registrations. Make sure you're a finalist and good luck from You Stop Phillips 66, the Friendship House, and News Radio KMAN.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go! Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
My name is Ariel. When I arrived In the U.S., at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without my high school diploma. My entire life changed when I took a chance and got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I pushed through all the challenges.
Ariel, your success proves that what I'm doing as a teacher has real meaning.
It was an honor helping you achieve your greatness. Now you're helping others achieve theirs. It inspires me.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Find free and supportive adult education centers near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Get your morning started with KMAN's Morning News. Weekdays.
Your News Radio KMAN Manhattan area weather forecast. Right now, 63 degrees, overcast and breezy. Wind speed as high as 32 miles an hour out of the south. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms likely before 1 a.m., then a possibility between 1 and 7 a.m. Some of the storms could be severe and produce heavy rainfall. Chance of precipitation at 70%. Tomorrow, a 10% chance of showers before 7 a.m. After that, mostly sunny and a high near 67.
So we've hit the middle of the week, which means that the degenerate side of sports is looking for things to do beyond the tournaments. Filling time with the NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball. DraftKings has decided to ramp up their home run dinger Tuesday promotion. They're actually offering now odds on home runs for those using torpedo bats.
That's a dangerous game to play. You might lose some money. Might lose some money.
9 home runs on Saturday for the Yankees as they beat the Brewers. And it put the torpedo bats right at the top of the line of the discussion in the sports world.
Well, then Ellie De La Cruz last night with a couple of home runs in his first game with a torpedo bat.
That is correct. And so you know what is on order for many, many hitters now in Major League Baseball. If you haven't gone through and gotten a feel yet for what the torpedo bat is, MIT designed, well, I should say MIT graduate designed. The Yankees analytics guy last year going around asking players on the team what could be done to help them improve. And some of them came up with this discussion about the fact that pitching has become so good. How to improve their ability to make contact. Aaron Lienhart was serving as a minor league hitting coordinator and decided that he was going to give a look at what the rules state and redesign the lumber. And with that, you have something that looks like a cross between a sledgehammer and, well, let's see here. What's the best way to put that? Sledgehammer with a point at the top almost.
Torpedo, if you will.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, torpedo is a very good way of putting it. It's a solid, accurate description of it. It just looks so weird.
It definitely balloons up in that middle section, the barrel section of it.
Just an elongated barrel is all it really is. But it makes it look so odd. And the idea being that you effectively are creating more surface area to make contact. This is one of those where, well, they didn't say I couldn't do it. So how long does this continue in Major League Baseball? How long are they going to allow for these bats? It's going to be very interesting. It is going to be very interesting. So, the Yankees had 15 home runs over their first 3 games. That ties a Major League record. Jazz Chisholm, Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells, Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt. All of them are using another term that has come to light, bowling pin bat.
Also an apt description.
And as you mentioned, Ellie De La Cruz, as if he needed any more.
Yeah, seriously, don't give him. Yeah, right? He can already hit it a mile. Don't need to give him something to make it easier.
This is unreal. And the fact that it has just absolutely taken over the discussion for Major League Baseball on opening week, and in some ways has supplanted some of the discussion of other things going. This is the type of thing, actually, that Major League Baseball needs more of. No, not necessarily the bat itself, but a good discussion topic and something that addresses the game while making it at least a debatable topic. I mean, one of the reasons why Major League Baseball is electing to get out of its contract with ESPN next year is because they dislike how they've been covered by ESPN outside of their baseball coverage. Those of us of a certain vintage remember when Baseball Tonight was on every night, when you had 4 games a week on ESPN. I'm one of those fans. I'm one of those guys who loved it because I'm a baseball guy. But what doesn't get talked about other than if it's the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers? Where is baseball not being talked about on ESPN unless it's one of those 3 teams? I call them the shouty shows. Get Up and First Take. Baseball was almost a non-topic because the NFL gives you material to turn into argumentative topics.
And if they don't give you material, you can create your own material.
Exactly. The NBA gives you topics during the course of the season. The NHL, not so much, so it's not discussed all that much on the shouty shows. And let's be perfectly honest, McAfee's not going to touch baseball. No, it's going to be the NFL, college football, and an occasional NBA and college basketball take thrown in. Baseball gets the short shrift on ESPN nowadays. You could almost call it the NHL effect from when the NHL was not on ESPN as a programming entity, period, which is the fear that some of us have is going to happen next year anyway when they get out of this contract. The point being is that this is the type of thing, though, that brings Major League Baseball back into the forefront for a lot of discussion, and thus the shouty shows are paying attention. And it's interesting. It's an interesting change in a game that always seems to be hesitant to change. And the aspect of this that makes it interesting change is that it is a player/team change.
Not a league-wide.
Not a league-wide mandate being handed down by Rob Manfred, which immediately has its own issues and how people approach it. No, instead, there's the discussion, well, are they getting by with something? Or is this a perfectly legal way to make the bat?
It'll be interesting to see if at all, and then if it does, how the upper management will handle this around the MLB.
And who becomes the first collegiate program?
Get some aluminum torpedo bats in there?
Oh, my God.
Sitting at about 600 feet. We need to get Maximus Martin one of those torpedo aluminum bats. And
oh, my.
He'll be hitting a home run every single at bat.
LSU Gorilla Ball returns. Honestly, with some of what K-State has put up already this year for home run numbers, torpedo bats made of aluminum.
Second half of the season is going to be a movie.
Someone at Easton is working overtime tonight. Anyway, it's going to be an interesting development to see here. At what point does Major League Baseball bring this in for more discussion among themselves in the office? I'm really curious because I've got a feeling it's not going to be much more than Memorial Day that we hear of the league office going, yeah, it's legal, but we're going to revisit this in the offseason. That's what I really think is going to be played out here, is that this will become a topic in the offseason for the Major League Baseball office. And I'm curious. Wonder how the torpedo bats react with the new ball strike monitoring system that they utilized in spring training.
I wish that was around for, I know it was like their test trial or whatever. I would have been okay with that being around for good because I like that a lot.
50-50. 50% accuracy. So it needs a little bit of work, but it was still better than Angel Hernandez.
Yeah, get that dude out of here. He is out of here. He's retired, right?
He is. Thank God. Hour 2 on the way. We'll talk a little college football, NFL rules in the next hour, too.
American Family Insurance.
At American Family Insurance, your small business is a big deal to us. You face challenges and you work hard to achieve your goals. As your American Family agent and business owner right here in your community, I've faced that too. I've built my business with the vision of helping you protect yours. Contact us today to see how we can protect what you've worked so hard to build with customized coverage that fits your needs. This is Rob Wild, agent at Wild & Associates, LLC.
American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
Suicide is preventable, and help is always available. If you're feeling hopeless or overwhelmed, you're not alone. Every day, lives are saved when people reach out for support. Pawnee Mental Health is here to help you through the hard moments, because your life matters. Call our 24/7 crisis hotline at 1-800-609-2002 or visit us at 1558 Hayes Drive in Manhattan to begin your path to healing. Remember, there is hope and there is help. Let's take the first step together.
Buck Roofing focuses on customer service by responding to the roofing concerns of residential and commercial properties with the utmost professional service for nearly 20 years. Call for a free no-obligation estimate at 785-230-9379.
Within Reason with Mike Madsen on News Radio KMAN.
Highways, roundabouts, electric vehicle charging stations. Jared Tremblay with the Flint Hills Metropolitan Planning Organization, Wednesday.
Within Reason with Mike Madsen. Weekday mornings at 9 on News Radio KMAN. What? You want more? You got more. More of the game coming up next on News Radio KMAN, Manhattan.
From the KMAN Newsroom, I'm Bernie Pansala with your 5 p.m. news update. The Flint Hills Breadbasket has an immediate need for volunteers for its upcoming Stamp Out Hunger Letter Carriers Drive. Executive Director Carla Hagemeister.
This Thursday, we will be getting 15,000 bags to go with the 15,000 cards that we need stapled to said bags that will then be folded and distributed by our letter carriers into people's mailboxes so that they can then fill the bags and have them picked up.
She says it's a great opportunity for groups to take part in a fun activity to help the community.
And that could be a group coming and spending a couple hours with their favorite staplers at the breadbasket.
She says businesses, sororities, and fraternities are encouraged to get involved in Thursday's activity. All modes of severe weather will be possible across the region this evening into early Wednesday. The National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center has placed the Manhattan area in a Level 3 enhanced risk for storm development. Large hail and damaging wind gusts will be the primary hazards, but tornadoes cannot be ruled out in some of the strongest storms. There is higher confidence for large hail and tornadoes for areas south of I-70. Any storms that develop in the enhanced risk area will have the greatest severe threat during the evening hours. The National Weather Service in Wichita says storm development across the Manhattan area will likely occur between 8 p.m. and midnight. Stay tuned to News Radio KMAN and the Manhattan Broadcasting family of stations for weather updates throughout the day. A K-State dairy specialist is reminding producers to remain vigilant in their biosecurity measures to control the spread of highly pathogenic avian influenza, HPAI. Nearly 1,000 herds have been affected across the U.S. since HPAI cases began ramping up about 16 months ago, but has weakened over that time. Mike Brooks says it's been well contained in Kansas.
Here in Kansas, our last infected herd was actually detected April 17th of 2024. So we've been almost a year now without a new infected herd in our state.
Brooks says Kansas has a milk monitoring system that is responsible for getting regular samples from silos of milk at dairy processing plants to determine if it is carrying HPAI.
This is occurring across much of the United States and actually has helped us detect HPAI in some of the dairy herds that have been more recently detected.
He says that surveillance is happening nationwide and has helped with detection of HPAI in some of the recently infected herds. City officials are reminding Manhattan residents of the annual spring cleanup happening next week. City crews will be circling neighborhoods between April 7th and April 11th, collecting properly bagged and stacked yard waste, tree limbs, and branches. Crews will be in different quadrants of the city each day, passing through areas only once to pick up items. No construction debris, household trash, or hazardous materials will be collected. Crews will not enter private property, so residents should have their items placed near the curb. A map of each day's pickup areas can be found at newsradiokman.com. Hydrant maintenance will begin this week across Manhattan. Crews from the Manhattan Fire Department will be flowing and painting fire hydrants throughout the city between now and late fall. Hydrants are flowed yearly to ensure proper operation and to flush out water lines. Residents who notice yellow or rust-colored water in their homes after crews have flowed hydrants should run water for a few minutes until the water runs clear. If it does not clear up right away, residents can call the city's customer service office at 785-587-2480 or the Manhattan Fire Department at 785-587-4502. City officials remind residents to use caution when in the area of crews flowing fire hydrants. Children should not play in or ride bicycles through the flowing water. Riley County Commissioners on Monday approved a rezoning request in the southern portion of the county. The site is a portion of two unplatted tracts of land belonging to the Schillingade Family Trust, south of Pillsbury Creek Drive and on the east side of McDowell Creek Road. The applicant, Chris Box, intends to build a house there. County planner Bob Isaac informed commissioners it was likely zoned that way initially due to the quarrying operations occurring at the time of the county-wide zoning conversion process in 1974. The land is described on the Planning and Development Report as undeveloped grassland. Fire District 1 serves the site.
News is powered by Central National Bank with locations at the Walmart Supercenter and at College and Claflin. Central National Bank, member FDIC.
K-Man Daily Weather is presented by
Your News Radio KMAN Manhattan area weather forecast right now: overcast and 66 degrees with wind gusts as high as 31 miles per hour out of the south. Tonight, some potential for some severe showers and thunderstorms before 1 a.m. and a continuing chance between 1 and 7 a.m. of some showers, that chance at 70%. Tomorrow, a 10% chance of showers and thunderstorms before 7 in the morning. After that, mostly sunny skies and a high near 67. Back to the game on News Radio KMAN.
Back to hour two of the game. Troy Coverdale with you this afternoon. Mitch Fortner will be back tomorrow in this chair for a shortened edition, as coming up tomorrow at 5:30 we'll have K-State baseball coverage for you from Wichita as the Cats take on the Shockers, part of a double dip of baseball that we'll have for you tomorrow here at News Radio KMAN. Cole Dutchendorf handling the controls this evening as we take you until 6 o'clock in coverage of the Royals tonight here on K-Man. As we headed into the break, I misspoke and said college football. No, college basketball remains at the top of the list. And there is a number that just has to be heard to be believed. And that has to do with the SEC. One of the things that is at play when programs make the NCAA tournament is, of course, not just the money that a program receives, but there's also a share that is direct for the conference. Well, the SEC, of course, got to load up on 14 teams in the tournament. Oklahoma be damned. They got in. Why? Texas. Really? I mean, anyway. But they got in. So 14 schools. The conference sets a record for the amount of money earned via what the NCAA terms as their unit system. Each unit is approximately worth $2 million. $2 million. And conferences are then awarded units based on how far their schools go in the tournament. So, for example, a team that loses in the round of 32 picks up 2 units for their conference because they won in the first round, played in the second. 1 for each game they played. 14 teams. You start digging through, going all the way to this point with Auburn and Florida being a part of the Final Four. They secured 13 units right from the jump. An automatic qualifier, the conference tournament champion, does not get their first round unit, but then it goes from there. So Auburn was no unit for the first game, and then from there they pick up the $2 million. 22 games to date for the SEC-involved teams. 35 units. $70 million.
It's not an insignificant amount.
Unbelievable. When you realize that the tournament package itself is worth for CBS and TNT $1 billion, that's how they can easily pay this out. But of all the conferences that, well, let's be perfectly honest, doesn't need it.
It would be the SEC.
For crying out loud. I hate to say it, but the honest truth is the way that this has all played out with realignment, the SEC has wound up on the most stable footing of everybody. And if you have to look at it from a basketball standpoint, the other one that I would put in that realm is the Big East. And I think we've seen that be evident by some of the coaches that have made moves to the Big East already here in the offseason. I mean, who would have seen Kevin Willard making a jump from Maryland to Villanova? Richard Pitino going from New Mexico to Xavier. Big East is loading up again. And a big reason for that is, right there with the SEC in how this plays, they're highly regional. Remember when the Big 8 was a drivable conference? No, you don't remember.
I don't. That's before my time.
Remember when the Big 12 was a mostly drivable conference?
I remember that one.
Yeah, we've gotten away from that because expansion has just completely obliterated that. What's the league that, in terms of its expansion, held to its regionality? The SEC.
Mm-hmm.
That gives them not only a step up in terms of safety, in the numbers that they have, in the locations that they are, it gives them also security in that region is theirs. No matter who comes in and adapts and tries to move things around, even the ACC, for as much as we want to talk about it up until this point, yeah, you could call them a regional conference, but that was stretching it because you had to go all the way up to Syracuse and all the way down to Miami But it was regional because it was at least along the seaboard for the most part.
All on the Atlantic coast. Hence the
Notre
the
Dame,
ACC.
Notre Dame for basketball.
We'll ignore them.
And so the SEC finds themselves in that position where it doesn't cost them what the travel costs are. Think about that for a moment. Their travel costs are immensely lower than everybody. They're getting paid more than everybody. It's that conference right now is going to be the death knell of college athletics as we know it. And we are hurtling along to that point, as evidenced again by just the outsized emphasis on listening to Greg Sankey and the SEC's desires when it comes to the college football playoff. When the SEC comes knocking for expansion, who's going to turn them down? I mean, Mizzou for years made noises about being in the Big Ten. But boy, that SEC invitation came and they didn't worry about the Big Ten anymore. Seriously, right now, the SEC holds all the cards. That's frightening. That really is frightening. Because that means that they could destroy the game. I don't see that any meaningful reform is coming out of them anytime soon. There's too many involved oil men and other such old money millionaires that are involved in the SEC. I mean, there's a reason why the fraternities and sororities dress up for games. That's money, man. There's money down there. Oh, my goodness. As much as we mock the states in regards to some things, yeah, when you watch and see how their students prepare for games and how they dress up, that's unreal. And then you turn it to the rest of the crowd, and there's a good portion of them that are dressed up the same way still. No matter what year they graduated. It's going to be interesting to watch. There is no doubt about it, and I just hope that if things have to start to get revamped, that the SEC gets taken down about 3 notches. I did find it interesting that among the moves today was a coach who has a job in the SEC electing instead to go to the Big Ten. Buzz Williams leaving Texas A&M to go to Maryland. Now, 20 years ago, that move would have been a tremendous move in terms of upwards and how we viewed it. Maryland is stuck much like Nebraska is in the Big Ten in really being viewed as an afterthought when it comes to basketball, as opposed to where its position was in the old ACC days. They were right there with Carolina, Duke, the powers in that conference. And now, they're just in a spot where it will be interesting to see what Buzz can do with them. I admire him. I think he's a heck of a coach. Always have admired him. But I know that a lot of people are sitting here going from an SEC program to a Big Ten program.
My theory that I just made up in my head in the last 30 seconds is that it's an NIL thing, not because of maybe even the total amount of funds, but because of the emphasis on football. You compare Maryland to Texas A&M, it's quite a bit different. And so you wonder if maybe he'd be able to have a little bit more pull with Maryland from an NIL standpoint of maybe we can attract some of these bigger name guys, and they already have a couple. They had the freshman who hit the game winner over Colorado State was, I believe, a 5-star coming out of Montverde.
Yes.
So it's not like that's necessarily been an issue, but if they can make that happen. It's just going to continue to build, and I wonder if that might have something to do with it, just the emphasis that each respective school places on NIL for that respective program.
And it's a great point. It is absolutely a great point, because Maryland continues to be, no matter how much money Under Armour puts into it, Maryland does continue to be more a basketball-viewed school than a football one. You're absolutely right with that. And location-wise, let's be honest, D.C. is a basketball city. Now, the Commanders are one thing. And even there, that juice has really wound down over the years because of the mismanagement of that franchise. There was a time when it was the Commanders, but college football did not hold much juice in D.C. Basketball has always been the sport in the District of Columbia. And Maryland's location there is a perfect place for them. I mean, we're talking Michael Beasley country here, among other players over the years. Kevin Durant out of the D.C. area, for crying out loud. I mean, the talent that comes out of D.C. can be on the same level as talent that comes out of New York City. It can be. So that, in a recruiting aspect, makes things a little easier for him. It's why Mark Turgeon had Delonte West on staff for a while. And when recruiting went awry, it was predominantly because Turgeon wasn't landing the D.C. guys anymore. Now an opportunity exists for Buzz Williams to try to repair that. Very strange, though, on top of that, it tells you where the Maryland program is, that Kevin Willard went from that to Villanova, which in a lot of people's minds is a step down. It's an interesting cycle that we're in right now with some of those jobs. It really is, especially if you try to view them through the lens of where the conference sits in our minds with the Power 5, Power 4, Power whatever at this point. I mean, in basketball, I guess you call it the Power 5 because of the Big East. But it's really the Power 4 and the rest ofs. And so that's what makes that an interesting thing. If you're just thinking of it from a conference standpoint, Villanova's in that rest of. They're not a power team. National titles be damned, a recent vintage. Basketball is in an interesting spot right now because of this Power 5 group of stuff. It really is in an interesting spot.
It's been a strange carousel over the last couple of days, for sure.
Yes.
This is kind of taking a rabbit trail, but the Maryland, it's their queen who is their star freshman, and again the one who hit the game winner against Colorado State. He was the one who post game they asked him a question about their previous coach. And they were like, do you trust him, or do you like some question about their head coach? And he says, well, he is the one who keeps the checks coming in, is basically what he said. And I thought that was just a hilarious answer, even if I don't love it in terms of what it means for the sport. I just thought it was so funny to hear a 19-year-old given the answer that he wanted to say, and probably is to a point is true.
It's true.
It was so funny to me.
As much as we hate it, it's true. Yeah, keeps the checks coming in. Oh, boy. So, yes, you're absolutely right. And then, and this just floored me. Because literally, as I'm going over notes, and I've got, as I call it, Twix up in front of me here. One of the trending topics was a coach who has coached at two schools been a head coach at two schools in Texas. He left one to go to the other one, which completely alienated a fan base. Got himself a little bit sideways with the law and his then partner, which got him fired from the second gig. Landed on his feet at an SEC school, and now is being mentioned as a possible A&M coach. A return to Texas for Chris Beard?
believe they say all my exes live in Texas
Yes,
or something
yeah,
like that.
George Strait, thank you. Yes, from his debut album, no less.
Maybe going back to the X, not to the exact X, but one of the X's.
I mean, can you imagine A&M doing that just to get over on Texas? Yeah, I can see it. Man, if you have no base in the history of the Southwest Conference, I invite you to go back and read up on the shenanigans of that conference. Every single one of those schools, boosters, and the strings that were pulled from the 30s through the disintegration of that conference, the fact that they could not keep programs off probation or off or out of trouble, culminating, of course, in SMU getting the death penalty, and thus the conference blows up. I mean, it was all about the big oilmen and their donations and their egos. Their school had to be better than the other. Oh, my Lord. And there is still that attitude in Texas. There is still that attitude, especially for UT and A&M. It's unreal how much money flows through those two programs, because the oilmen are all over it. And their egos will not let them back off. And in the process, you get the fun little things like, ooh, former Texas coach Chris Beard could land on his feet at Texas A&M. And if you're Ole Miss, how do you feel about that discussion right now, too?
Probably not great.
Good.
If I had to imagine.
Yeah. I mean, we put you... anyway.
Sure, if you want to hear me, I got that clip pulled up from Dairy Queen. I figured I'd just play that really quick because I love it.
Willard's someone who basketball players listen to, and what has he meant to you guys in the short time he's been with you?
First, he do pay us the money.
And you can hear the reaction from the reporters in the room. Just can't believe what he just said. It's
not only that, but him chuckling at it, and his other players are laughing at it because it is right. My God. What have we done? What have we done? Anyway, all right. If I told you that the tush push got the Buffalo treatment, what do you think I mean today?
I guess we'll find out.
Coming back on The Game.
This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Get your passport, sunscreen, and week's vacation ready for an all-expense-paid trip to Cabo San Lucas, courtesy of You Stop Phillips 66 and Friendship House. Your chance to get registered to become an instant finalist this week is at Parker Hannafin on Hayes Drive in Manhattan. Stop into Parker Hannafin this week and register. Friday between noon and 1 p.m., 10 instant finalists will be one step closer for their chance to win. So get into Parker Hannafin and get registered today. Passport to Cabo is brought to you by You Stop Phillips 66 and Friendship House.
Friends, this is your personal invitation to visit Midland Exteriors Open House Saturday, April 12th from 11 to 4. Get ready for outdoor games, food and refreshments, exclusive giveaways, and unbeatable discounts on what your home's exterior requires. Plus, you can meet K-State stars Avery Johnson and Joe Jackson. They'll be signing autographs from 1 to 3. Midland Exteriors Open House Saturday, April 12th from 11 to 4 at 8226 Southport Drive. Learn more at midlandexteriors.com.
The Trust Company is an independent, locally owned wealth management and investment company founded right here in Manhattan in 1992. The experienced professionals at the Trust Company are recruited specifically for their financial, legal, accounting, and business expertise. They're also your neighbors who, guided by your hopes and dreams, will continue to deeply understand your aspirations and goals. The Trust Company, locally owned, client-focused. Our only allegiance is to you. Visit thetrustco.com.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
There are many times I thought, I can't do this. I mean, what parent isn't worried about? What am I not doing right? What am I not doing enough? And then I realized, wait, that's
being a parent.
Don't worry about being perfect. I've had around 3 other mother figures in my life, but only one of them has taught me how a mother loves.
The greatest reward for me is he makes me better every day.
I would tell a family considering adopting a teenager that teenager, whoever it is, needs you, and they need what you have to offer.
Taylor's giving me hope. He's our son, and that is what he will always be.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
The Ramsey Show.
Up to 50% of American families are paying their adult
I'm Cole Dessendorf with the Game Sports Update. Just a couple of days after K-State's loss to number 1 seed USC in the Sweet 16, the Wildcat women have their first portal defection of the offseason. According to a report from On3, junior forward Eliza Maupin is headed to the transfer portal after 3 seasons in Manhattan. Maupin averaged 3.9 points per game this past season and 4 points per game over her career. She also averaged 2.7 rebounds per game this past season, recording a career-high 17 blocks and 29 assists. She had a career-high 18 points on 7 of 7 shooting versus Texas as a sophomore, and had a season-high 15 points versus USC Upstate this past season. Maupin is the first K-State player from either women's or men's teams to enter the portal this offseason. The Royals seek to move to over 500 for the first time in the young season as they meet the winless Milwaukee Brewers tonight with first pitch at 6:40. Kansas City spoiled Milwaukee's home opener yesterday with an 11-1 thrashing. All 9 hitters in the Royals starting lineup recorded either an RBI or a run scored, and Chris Bubich put together a quality start in his first time starting a game since April of 2023. Bubich went 6 scoreless innings, allowing just 3 hits and 2 walks, striking out 8. Tonight it's Michael Lorenzen who gets a start for the Royals and Chad Patrick for the Brewers. Game 2 of the 3-game series starts immediately following the game with pregame at 6 on News Radio KMAN.
You weren't around when this was a discussion topic, by the way. This was a bucket list concert for Coverdale.
Really?
Seeing George a few years back.
I see.
At Arrowhead. Mitch even went.
And he hates country, doesn't he?
Yes. But I mean, come on.
It's George Strait.
It's George Strait. Oh, I was so thrilled to get the opportunity to see George. Because that one had been on the bucket list for a while. And Chris Stapleton and Little Big Town. That was a concert. That's
a pretty good lineup.
That was a great concert. That was a tremendous concert. So if I tell you that the Tush Push got the Buffalo treatment today, what do you immediately think of?
You know, I've been mulling it around in my head, and I'm honestly not sure. If there's anything, I'm thinking like a wide right pun, like it got pushed to the side or something like that.
No, it wound up through a table.
There you
It
go.
got tabled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you now.
Bad dad joke on April Fool's Day from me here. That said, yes, the tush push, as of right now, still remains a legal play in the NFL. Apparently, well, let's go through this here just right out of the box. So the owners' meetings and coaches' meetings were wrapping up today in Palm Beach. What a place to be at. So we talked about this the last time that I sat in, a number of the different rules proposals that were out there, and the Packers were the ones that brought forth this idea to make the tush push an illegal play and keep the Dirty Birds of Philadelphia from being able to utilize that anymore going on. It would be an illegal play, which anybody who understands the sport of football knows that it's been a legal play for the history of the game. There's really no reason to make this an illegal play other than they say player safety, but honestly, how's it any different than any other running play? It's a quarterback sneak. That's all it is. It's a quarterback sneak. But for the moment, it remains illegal play. Why? Apparently, Nick Sirianni's outcroppings, if you will, of coaches that have gone other places are helping influence the vote. So in other words, there were not enough votes to make it an illegal play. There were not enough votes to change the rule book. There were enough members of the Eagles bloc, if you will, that it remains in place because they were forced into tabling it because they didn't have the votes to change it. So for the moment, it remains. And there's going to be a lot of negotiation that goes on now before the next owners' meeting comes up and the discussion then gets taken back up and we'll see where everybody is.
You think possibly it was the Shane Steichens and the Jonathan Gannons of the world that helped prevent this from passing?
That is exactly right. That is exactly right. And I started to hear about this a little last night, that there were rumblings that Sirianni was calling upon Steichen and others that have been on his staff in the past or that he's got connections with to help influence this. Politics is at its best right there. Got his block behind him, and for the moment, his play remains a play.
I do think it's dumb that, and if anyone would have a problem with it, it'd be me as the Chiefs fan, as I've been on the losing end of it one time, and then obviously they ran it to perfection every single time in the first Super Bowl appearance. I don't think it should be banned. I think if it was such a crazy play, a crazy good play, everyone in the league would be able to do it. It's basically a targeting towards the Eagles of the world and really the Bills of the world too, because they kind of figured out how to run it with some proficiency. But even they didn't do it as well as the Eagles. We saw what happened in the AFC Championship game.
Right. Again, as I said, it's a quarterback sneak. With a little added to it, it's a quarterback sneak.
The Eagles would still be great at it even if you couldn't push Jalen Hurts. They would get a first down every single time regardless.
Exactly. Especially when you have the road graders up front that they've had.
Correct.
I mean, let's be perfectly honest. There's a reason why Jason Kelce hated that play, because he ended up on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
But that's football. That's a play that has been a part of the game. And I understand this thought about saying, yeah, player safety. I have a tough time trying to argue it on that play. I just do. Mainly because, and you know what? For all of the complaints about, well, you can't touch quarterbacks and you can't do this and you can't do that anymore in the game, and they've legislated all of this out of it. And, I don't normally get into that argument. But for once, I feel like I'm the old fuddy-duddy talking about the old-time sport of football when we talk about something as simple as a quarterback sneak. The game was based on rugby in the first place. Let's be perfectly honest here. It's a rugby play. That's all it is.
It's a scrum.
It's a scrum. So, yeah. Why this has turned into something that the Packers want rid of, I don't know, other than, trying to attach it to player safety. I just don't see it. And maybe that's my age. I don't know.
And it wasn't like players were going out left and right after a tush push.
Right? So we'll see what plays out. Again, this isn't the last of it. Other rule items that have come to light here that were passed. There's going to be a change on kickoffs. Touchback will now be at the 35.
Yeah.
The dynamic kickoff itself will continue. Just that the touchback is now the 35.
They just want to prevent kickers from kicking it through the end zone, because that's basically all that happened. They figured out how to limit the injuries. They want to see more kickoff returns.
Correct. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the touchback goes to the 35. League officials, special team coaches say that's going to prompt a significant increase in the return rate. This year, there was a return rate of 33%, which is good given what the return rate before that was. But the Broncos' new special teams coach, the former interim Saints coach, Darren Rizzi, is one of the primary architects on this. And he said that he believes that they'll get between 70 to 75% return rate this year.
Yeah, because you don't want to kick. A 65-yard touchdown drive, that's not very long.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to put that in place. Let's see. Each team will get a guaranteed possession in overtime during the regular season. However, it will remain at 10 minutes.
I didn't love that one. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't love that one because I think part of the regular season overtime. I think the coin toss is one of the most electric moments of any regular season of any sport, and now to a point that allure is gonna be lost a little bit. I think with it.
K-balls will be allowed to be prepared ahead of game day. That had not taken place in the past. If you're not sure, if you don't know what a K-ball is, kicker balls. And I know, take that out of context how you will. Let's see. 2 players designated to return from IR if they're placed on the IR when rosters are reduced to 53. In other words, that essentially gives them a couple more spots late in the season. And they have tabled for further discussion the Lions' proposal that would make playoff seeding based on regular season records as the guiding principle rather than divisional
and they
titles.
Better get that one the heck out of here. I don't want it.
Also, they did not approve Detroit's proposal that would have eliminated the automatic first down as a penalty imposed for defensive holding or illegal contact. Other news out of the meetings. Netflix and Prime will present us an NFL triple header on Christmas this year. 2 games on Netflix, 1 on Prime.
They're really trying to wrangle with the NBA on that one.
Yes, they are. There's one problem with that. Netflix and Prime versus being able to watch the games on ABC and
but even
ESPN.
Last year, which obviously it's difficult to compare the NBA to the NFL ratings, but the NFL crushed the NBA last year, even on Netflix.
Yeah, and it's going to be that way. I know that. I'm just pointing it up because, you have to remember, I still have family members of the generation who go, streaming? What?
Yeah.
Where can I? Anyway, one other note about the NFL and going forward. I know that there was some discussion about this earlier and how they were going to utilize better visioning for marking first downs. They're literally going to use 8K cameras from Sony to determine the spot of the ball.
It means no more note cards to determine whether or not the ball has made it past the plane.
The Hawkeye cameras that will measure the line to gain.
But it really doesn't change that much because it's still spotted by the referees. All that's changing is we don't get the amazing sequence of the chain gang running onto the field, which I think you got to love that. I don't know why you take that away.
The NFL says Sony's technology will offer a quote-unquote more efficient Alternative to using sticks and a 10-yard chain to track the position. So we're using a camera and not a laser.
Again, this takes me back to the coin toss in overtime. I want to see this excitement. I want to see them running onto the field. Don't take that away from me.
Oh, man. The excitement of them running onto the field.
It's electric.
Folks, he's not kidding. This is not an April Fool's joke.
My heart pounding during that Chiefs AFC Championship game to see whether or not Josh Allen got that first down. You can't take that away from me.
Oh, man.
Now it's a robot telling us it's a first? I don't like that.
Speaking of bad April Fool's jokes, did you see Tiger Woods tried to sell it that he was coming back to play at the Masters?
I did not.
Despite his Achilles injury? Yeah, he had a later tweet, P.S., April Fool's Day. I mean, come on. Not a well done. About as flat as his laugh. Just not well done. Speaking of, well, jokes, just not April Fools, some of the things that haunted the A's in their last years in Oakland are haunting the A's in their first days in Sacramento. I'll tell you about it coming up next on The Game.
Your home for K-State sports.
And another pickoff by Bobby Walker. And another touchdown by Bobby Walker.
This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
At Stormont Vale Health, high-quality care is right around the corner.
Stormont Vale Health is more than just a hospital. We're an essential part of your community. Our commitment to quality healthcare means investing in the most skilled and talented providers and cutting-edge medical technology. Our investment in your well-being doesn't stop there. We also support various nonprofit programs throughout the communities we serve. Visit StormontVale.org and discover how we can serve you.
Stormont Vale Health. High-quality care, closer to home.
You Stop Phillips 66, the Friendship House, and News Radio KMAN is giving away an all-expense-paid trip to Cabo San Lucas. Imagine spending a full week in luxury at the Villa Valencia Resort in Cabo for free. To become a finalist, go to our weekly sponsor locations and sign up. While you're there, photobomb our Cabo selfie sign, tag us on Facebook for another chance to be a finalist. Or you can listen to News Radio KMAN for exclusive on-air registrations. Make sure you're a finalist, and good luck from You Stop Phillips 66, the Friendship House, and News Radio KMAN.
Have you heard about the guaranteed 50% return on investment opportunity? All you have to do is transfer your funds through a cryptocurrency ATM now.
Stop right there. Do you know that no one can guarantee returns on an investment? That is the first sign of a scam. Don't wait until it's too late to verify that this is a legitimate investment opportunity before agreeing to transfer any funds. To learn more about common investment scams and how to avoid them, visit smartinvestks.gov, an investor empowerment initiative brought to you by the Kansas Department of Insurance. This ad is sponsored by the Kansas Department of Insurance and aired in cooperation with the station.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Your News Radio KMAN Manhattan area weather forecast. Right now, 66 degrees, overcast, wind gusts as high as 31 miles per hour out of the south. Tonight, a chance for some severe thunderstorms. Those severe thunderstorms producing heavy rainfall, potential for some hail as well. Showers then likely between 1 and 7 in the morning. That overnight precipitation at 70%. Tomorrow, after the showers in the morning, mostly sunny and a high near 67.
One of the things that I did enjoy when traveling with Northern Colorado basketball specifically, football as well, was the occasion where we had to go across the causeway from Sacramento to Davis for the occasional game over there, because it allowed for us to see a different side of Sacramento that we normally didn't get to, the west side of the community. Sacramento State's campus is closer to downtown than it is to the west side of the city. And that route to the causeway allowed us to get a view of the ballpark, the baseball stadium that has been now brought into purpose for the Oakland A's. One of the flaws that the Mausoleum or Coliseum in Oakland for years dealt with, sewer issues. As in sewers backing up into the dugouts or the clubhouses. One of a multitude of things that were allowed to basically, well, I hate to say fester because that's not the right word, but basically allowed to just disintegrate in the grand scheme of things. They just let the place rot. And it posed all kinds of problems and became the reason why you no longer have a football team in Oakland and why you now no longer have a baseball team in Oakland. So the A's made their home debut in Sacramento on Monday. And it is rather telling that the line reads like this. And let's just say if you thought the Oakland Coliseum was bad, you haven't seen anything yet. Now, that ballpark in Sacramento I always thought was a pretty decent little ballpark for AAA. But the problem becomes you're repurposing a AAA stadium for a Major League Baseball team. A little different with what the Rays are doing because it happens to be the Yankees' spring training home. And it's named after George Steinbrenner. The Yankees weren't going to let that be a problem or, let there be issues in that place. They're going to run it the way the Yankees run it. So that one's not so much an issue. And we didn't hear about a lot of issues when Toronto was playing in Buffalo either. But apparently there were more issues with Sacramento than I thought. There are no bathrooms tied to the dugouts. As in attached to the dugouts. No bathrooms attached to the dugouts.
That seems not convenient.
Normally players will go back into the clubhouse. No, It's called the Walk of Shame. Essentially, so that, someone can run across the outfield to get to where the clubhouse lies. Almost like a college ballpark in a lot of ways in that aspect. Yeah, Sia Suzuki became the first to have to take the Walk of Shame to go use the bathroom. Seriously.
That's not a great look.
Yeah, not a great look at all. Also, major problems with their connectivity for both television and radio yesterday.
That's obvious. That's not good either.
No, I guess my friend Jenny Kavnar had a bad broadcast with him on the TV side.
So it's been an inauspicious start to their stay in Sacramento?
And finally, I'm going to ask you what this happens to be of, what that is a photo of. Let me go for the camera here as well. Do I have it centered all right?
Yeah,
okay.
it's in there.
All right. What is that?
I have no idea.
It's a tool shed. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's the post-game press conference shed.
That's bad, man. That's bad.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, essentially it's a Home Depot shed that costs about $6,000.
That's an organization in shambles, man.
When you go back over the A's history, you now understand why they have moved 3 times. And the first, well, let's be perfectly honest. The first was because Connie Mack just did not prepare well for his own eventual demise. The man ran out of money. Thus, the move to Kansas City. You get Charlie O'Finley involved. He didn't like Municipal Stadium, wanted more money, wanted a new ballpark. Thus, the move to Oakland. Now you have the Fisher Group in charge of the A's. John Fisher has become persona non grata for most as it pertains to anything that has to do with the A's at this point. But he's got himself a nice, beautiful new stadium to be built in Las Vegas. But it's going to take 3 years of playing in Sacramento.
And as we've seen, they don't have the greatest digs up there in Sac-Town.
Brutal. I may have to do the quiz on Twix a little later. And it's an inside joke of what this quiz will be because it will fall decidedly to those who have followed Big Sky basketball over the years. Which is a worse facility? Sacramento State's gymnasium or Sacramento's ballpark?
Is it that bad for Sacramento State University?
They're moving into the rec center next year.
Oh, man.
Because they only could seat right at 980 some odd.
That's it?
Oh, yeah.
Less than 1,000?
Oh, yeah. They couldn't, when the conference would hold the tournaments on the site of the champion, the home floor of the champion, they couldn't host. It was in the bylaws. They and Portland State couldn't host until they got new arenas because neither of them had 1,200 seats.
That's crazy.
And as such, it sent everybody scrambling one year, and it's what resulted in finally the conference putting the tournament at a fixed location. Because Sacramento State folded like a bad table at the end of the season, and Montana snuck in and won the men's title 2 weeks after the women's title had already been decided, and so all of us were headed for Missoula, but it forced an entire change to the schedule because everybody on the men's side was planning for Sacramento, and they were going to play games at the rec center. It was going to be a makeshift arena just to allow them to host. And no, they folded, lost their last 2 games. Montana sneaks in, wins the title, and then forces everything to be revamped for the following week because you had both the men's and women's teams in Missoula battling for hotel space, practice space, game times. It was
a couple of headaches.
The next year was when we began the 3 years in Reno with the tournament. Back for a wrap in a moment. Ahead of Royals baseball, this is the game.
Tweet the game, KMAN, or call 537-1350 and get in touch with the show. This is the game on News Radio KMAN.
At Buck Roofing and Construction, they do more than just roofing and gutters. They also offer a wide range of siding options as well. Whether you are in need of siding, a whole new roof, gutters, or just a repair, Buck Roofing can do it all. Call for a free, no-obligation estimate today, 785-230-9379, or visit rbuckroofing.com. Buck Roofing, where quality and professionalism come first.
Spring is in the air at Blueville Nursery. The greenhouse is filling up with bright spring flowers and cool season veggies. Outside, trees and shrubs are starting to make their appearance. Now is also the time to start amending your soil. We recommend Cottonburg compost. The store is full of seeds, potatoes, and onion sets. Don't forget your crabgrass preventer and pre-emergence to prevent headaches later on this season. Blueville Garden Store is open Monday through Saturday, 8 to 5. Come give us a visit at Blueville Nursery, where you'll always find a friendly smile and expert advice. Located at the corner of Scenic Drive in Anderson and Manhattan.
I'm a retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing. After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak. My name is Julius Gaines, creative writer, poet, photographer.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Get your morning started with KMAN's Morning News, weekdays at 6.
There's a lot that is going on every 24 hours, and each morning we get you updated on what's taking place, the most important things for you to know as you begin your workday. I'm Troy Coverdale. Brandon Peoples will be with me tomorrow morning as we get you caught up to date on all of the news headlines that you need to get your day started.
KMAN's Morning News, weekday mornings, 6 to 9 on News Radio, KMAN.
Troy, my question today is centered around a refusal to share. And in this case, we're going to talk about food. What's a food, a dish, an item, a snack, whatever you want to answer it. What is a food that you usually refuse to share? And if you need some time to think, I have a story. I don't have necessarily a food, but I have a story of on my honeymoon with my wife this past year in Hawaii. I went to a little donut shop. And one of the donuts that I got, I took a couple of bites, and this is the next morning. It's like 4:30. We're getting ready to fly out. And took a couple of bites and decided I was going to enjoy that donut for myself because it was the best donut that I've ever had in my life. And so if she ever is angry, she might bring that up if I get unlucky.
Yeah, might not have been a smart move right there.
And I don't regret it. It was that good.
You know, I don't really have one, but especially because, well, there are so many foods that Monica has to avoid over time.
I see.
So, yeah, the nice thing about it is it means that I don't have to share any of my chocolate.
You got that built-in excuse? Is that what I'm hearing?
That is correct. My Diet Cokes, nope, those don't get shared unless Mom's in the place. Then I'll share. Monica can't do them because of caffeine. So, in general, yeah, I don't have any big ones, unlike you.
Online and on demand, 24/7 at newsradiokman.com. News Radio KMAN, Manhattan.
The following is a presentation of the Kansas City Royals Baseball Network.